What's up everybody, and welcome to another edition of AGR's Pop Culture Reviews. Now before I start the show, I just want to give you an update on some product information. For those of you who are anticipating the Captain Marvel Bishoujo statue, I just got an email from KOTOBUKIYA, which has been confirmed by Big Bad Toy Store, that this statue is actually going to be delayed until the second half of 2020. Now according to the email that I received, it looks like it's due to unforeseen timeline changes beyond their control. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but what it means for me is that I'm not going to actually receive a sample until about a year and a half, which is kind of a bummer because I was really anticipating reviewing that statue. But it is what it is, guys. This is the game that we play in the collecting industry. Sometimes there's unforeseen delays. But it's not all bad news on the show today, guys. I got something really cool in studio to review for you today. Now, when Chun-Li wasn't an option for me, my second go-to girl was definitely Cammy. So today we're going to be reviewing KOTOBUKIYA's version of Cammy, the Street Fighter Alpha costume Bishoujo statue. Let's take a closer look. Now, very similar to KOTOBUKIYA's Chun-Li statue, this is actually the second rendition of the Cammy statue in the alternate costume, and as you can see, it's pretty good looking. Now, I can say this in all honesty, to date, KOTOBUKIYA statues have never disappointed in terms of overall style, quality, and just a cool factor, and here they continue that tradition. Take a look at the head sculpt, guys. Obviously, it is a Bishoujo statue, so it's going to be very beautiful. The style is amazing here. I especially love the sculpt in the hair, very anime accurate, and the attention to detail is cool too. That little camel stripe that she has across her cheek is a nice touch. Now, a couple of years ago, admittedly, KOTOBUKIYA dabbled in the Comic-Con exclusives, which were essentially the same statue, just a repaint. Fortunately, they didn't do that, and they're not doing that with the Street Fighter statues. When they are making a second edition, it is a completely remolded and repainted statue. The midsection and upper torso of this figure is actually pretty spectacular. Not only are we getting the Street Fighter Alpha costume, but we also see how they played with the textures here. You have that nice high gloss with the gloves, which looks spectacular, and then the costume itself is done in a kind of dull suede finish. I also like the details, and what really pops out at you is her kind of tie, which is a nice brilliant yellow. Overall, the color palette is amazing, but I think what really puts it over are the textures. Now, easily one of the things that draws your attention about this piece is definitely her legs. They're incredibly muscular without being over exaggerated. What I find very impressive is the detail in the tendons, especially around her costume area, which look fantastic. Shading was done very well here, and it makes it look extremely organic. And finally, rounding out the great amount of detail here is those kind of lightning bolt camel decals that look spectacular and really makes it pop. Now, one of the things that I really love about this statue is definitely in her boots and the way that she's standing. It's powerful and commanding, and yet whimsical at the same time, which is very in line with this character. I also like the color palette here. I'm glad that they used a lighter shade of brown to simulate the leather, but most impressively for me is definitely in the sculpt. Take a look at the creases near her ankles and at the back of the actual boot itself. I mean, that's a spectacular job, guys. It looks really great. Now, without question, and I mean, there's absolutely no debate here, this is a piece that you're definitely going to want to mirror, for obvious reasons, but let me start with her hair first. The sculpt of her hair is incredible. There's a lot of detail there, especially at the upper part of her head looks great as it's scrolling down. But, of course, what really draws your eyes is definitely the braids. They are so intricate, especially the way they're flowing down. I love the direction that they went in with. But look at that, look at the amount of detail there, guys. It really gives it a sense of three-dimension that she has those two braids going down. They look fantastic. I also have to comment on the muscular structure and the shading on the small of her back. I mean, it is absolutely incredible how they did this. And finally, if you're not completely sold on that, just take a look at the gluteus maximus. I mean, there is so much detail there, especially in the shading. I mean, it looks like a cracked walnut, am I right? This is something that you definitely have to mirror, guys. I mean, it is just made for it. It looks absolutely spectacular. Not to mention it's kind of Cammy's signature move when she beats you. Now, the base on this statue is actually pretty unique as well. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is there some kind of purple tint to it? That's just the lights that I'm using. It's actually crystal clear. But most importantly, there's a little compartment underneath it, which is really cool. And I'll tell you why in a minute. You can actually detach that to put the lithograph, which we'll see in a moment. I love the simplicity here. It also looks really good. Now, it's a little bit wider than normal, but it's totally worth it given the stance that she has. So overall, there's a nice footprint to it. Looks really great. And finally, rounding out the last accessory for this piece is the actual lithograph itself. Actually, you get two of them. I forgot to mention in the previous review. You get Cammy herself, which is virtually the same as the box art, and you also get a nice logo of Street Fighter, so you can decide which one you want to use. Now, going back to the design of the base for a moment, the cool thing is that compartment makes it very easy for you to swap out. It's not a pain in the ass like some of the other statues, and I'm glad they did this, and I hope they do this in the future. Well, what can I say about this piece, guys? It is completely awesome. I can definitely categorize this as a Holy Grail piece, very similar to the other statues. But this one is very special looking. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just so cool, and I imagine that it's going to be swapped up very soon. So if you want it, guys, now's the time to jump on it. Now, before I go, I just want to thank the folks over at KOTOBUKIYA and Big Bad Toy Store for sending this wonderful piece over for review. And if you're interested in this and other collectibles, please visit www.bigbadtoystore.com. Alright everybody, so that's my official review on KOTOBUKIYA's version of Cammy, the Street Fighter Alpha costume Bishoujo statue. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next AGR's Pop Culture Reviews.